welcome to Living It TV. Thank you so much for joining us again today. I am Dr. Mark.
And I am Dr. Michelle.
And we are M&M without the sugar. Give me some of that. Boom. Listen, we're excited today because we are talking about a subject matter that hits home with everyone. In America today, especially even not just this country but around the world, we are plagued by something called obesity. It's excess yellow fat gain around the middle. And we are not, and I repeat, not designed as a people to store excess body fat. We're supposed to be using it as fuel. So we have been really deceived, and we're going to actually unwind that for you today. What is good fat, what is bad fat, and hopefully give you an understanding of how to get rid of it forever.
Fat is not all bad. We have been geared to think that eating fat is bad. We are going to teach you how utilizing a semi-ketogenic diet is absolutely power for your health and helping you be healthy long term. So we're going to teach you how to get rid of that excess around the middle, get rid of that inflammatory spare tire, possibly give you some insights into why your joints ache and why you are tired by the end of the day. In fact, for every pound you're overweight, Dr. Mark, that is how many pounds in your joints?
10.
10
pounds.
That's big.
It's like carrying around a truck.
So think about it. If you're carrying around just 50 extra pounds and you multiply that by 10, that is 500 pounds on your joints. So how are you going to feel at the end of the day? Tired.
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 Really tired.
Exhausted.
I want to go to sleep.
You show up to the doctor says, you're tired.
No doubt.
How about some depression medications? How about some diet pills? How about just a little bit of good nutrition? We're going to help you unpack how to get well, how to get rid of that inflammatory yellow fat, and not go into any kind of starvation mode.
And here's the interesting thing. Remember years ago, probably 30, maybe 40 years ago, there was the introduction to this brilliant piece of work called the food pyramid that had at the very top of the pyramid this little triangle that had fat. You were supposed to eat just a little bit of that. You're supposed to avoid it at all costs because fat was bad. And the bottom of this brilliantly piece of architecture development was this broad stroke thing called multiple servings of breads and grains. Hear me, that was the most idiotic thing that's ever developed, because at that time in history, this blows people's minds, Dr. Michelle, there was one state in the country, 1 out of 50, that had an obesity rate of 20%. When the food pyramid came out, it took 11 years for every state in the nation of all 50 to cross the 20% barrier, going above that, except for one. And now, in our home state of Oklahoma, we are at or near 50%. And in actuality, in the last 12 months here where we are right now, the obesity rate climbed at 10%. It is shocking. It's because of this inundation, this overconsumption of sugars, grains, and breads, and the underconsumption of fat. And Dr. Michelle, that is really something that gets underneath our skin, so to speak. We have got to learn that eating fat is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing because our bodies need fat, don't they?
Well, if you think about it, your gray matter, yes, your cerebrum, which is between your ears, also known as your brain, believe it or not, is 60% fatty material. So if you are afraid of fat or fat phobic, don't eat fat, don't consume fat, don't believe in fat, your brain will likely suffer. Not only that, the outer membrane of every cell in your body is made up of good fats. That is those omega-3s that we talk about, that EPA and DHA, that really good stuff that must come from the outside because your body does not make it. There are certain fatty acids that we have to consume in our daily nutritional protocol in order to be well. And believe it or not, being well means feeding your brain to keep fatty matter intact and healthy.
So the next time somebody calls you a fathead, just say thank you. They call me fathead sometimes when I like that kind of like. But don't go away. When we come back, we're going to unpack this thing called fat, how to actually improve your health with eating fat through the semi-ketotic or the diet called ketosis. Stay with us. Welcome back to Living It TV. I am ready to dive into this, Dr. Michelle, because people have been scared of fat for over 3 decades, and just this time in our history, people are starting to get the realization that fat is not necessarily a bad thing, that we have been deceived. But we thought we'd go back and find some scripture references to actual relationships to what we have going on right now, because right now in history, we have this epidemic of people circling or rallying around this idea of food as every activity. And there's a couple of interpretations we're going to read in Philippians chapter 3, verse 16 through 19. So Dr. Michelle, can you read this in the New King James and also in the Message, which I love that translation.
You bet. So Philippians 3, 16 to 19, New King James. Only let us live, point, you think differently, up to what we have already attained. Join with others in following my example, brothers, and take note of those who live according to the pattern that we gave you. For as I have often told you before, and now say again, even with tears, many live as enemies of the cross of Christ. Their destiny is destruction, and their God is their stomach, and their glory is in their shame. Their mind is on earthly things, but our citizenship is in heaven. I like to read it out of the Message too, because that really resonates with me. Sometimes the these and the thous and the New King James and the King James are just a little difficult. So I'll open to the Message and read the same verse and see if that doesn't resonate with you. Stick with me, friends. Keep track of those you see running the same course, headed for this same goal. There are many out there taking other paths, choosing other goals, and trying to get you to go along with them. I've warned you of them many times. Sadly, I'm having to do it again. All they want is easy street. They hate Christ's cross. But Easy Street is a dead-end street. Those who live there make their bellies their gods. Belches are their praise, and all they can think of is their appetites. Now, in our society today, oftentimes our appetites is where we focus. The sugars, the grains, the breads, the socializing, everything is around food. Perhaps that's why our nation is a sinking ship when it comes to health.
I was laughing about that last verse in the Message. Read that last verse one time in the Message, that verse 19, I guess it is, 18, where the guys are their bellies.
Easy Street is a dead-end street. Those who live there make their bellies their God. Belches are their praise. All they can think of is their appetite.
Let me tell you something, and I'm going to speak from the heart here, and it gets me fired up, and you know me by now that I'm liable to get on a soapbox. So here's a mini soapbox for you. I have a difficult time listening to a fat pastor. Yes, I said that. And I tell you why. Because we have made a joke out of gluttony and a joke out of feeding ourselves this poor food. And let me be straight with you. You cannot live in an example of Christ and look like the whole world. The world is fat, the world is obese, the world is gluttonous. And we're chasing money, we're chasing comfort in the wrong places. We are serving the gods of our bellies, and I'm speaking right now directly to you. We're serving the gods of our bellies like that is the God of our lives. And that He has no business, the God of our bellies, serving our lives in number one capacity. We're supposed to serve the God of heaven and earth, our Heavenly Father, and He wants us to be healthy. He doesn't want us to be rolling around with everything we do, circled around where we're going to get our next bowl of chips and salsa or sandwiches. Are you kidding me? What have we done with ourselves? We've created a society of sick people. And sadly, most of the diseases we have today are self-imposed, self-choice driven. And we talked about this many times. This just goes right through me because we can do better, but yet we don't want to address it. You know, I made some crack the other day, and I don't mean this to be offensive, but it's like if you've got a double chin, I see a double standard. And I'm not trying to get right on you. I'm just saying, take inventory. If you're not doing something about it and you haven't fixed your food, go back and fix it, because the question I have for you today, sir, ma'am, wherever you are, is your God your belly? Is it? You know, this is a clear example of a scripture that's often ignored. Paul is talking about contextually, Dr. Michelle, all of his achievements, all these things that he can brag on. He's saying, you know, it's not like that. I don't want you to brag on these. I want you to follow my example. His example was as a person that did everything possible to win as many people to the cross as possible. And he didn't do that by trying to be just like them. He tried to set himself apart from them. You know, and he's saying, don't do as these other people are doing that are clearly enemies of the cross. And those that their glory is their shame, their God is their bellies, and their belches are their praise. You know, it's not, there's places in this world, you know, we just got back from a trip, and we saw people live in shanties and shacks, and, you know, they make $5 a day, and they're just trying to get a next meal, and we've got these refrigerators full of just all kinds of stuff. And we can't wait to go down to Burger King and get another piece of trash and poison. And you know, I really, you know I go off on this stuff, but it's serious when people are accumulating fat unnecessarily by eating this trash.
Well, I mean, it's not to berate or barrage individuals, but as healthcare practitioners, when individuals come into our offices, we get heartbroken because if we don't change lifestyle from the ground up, meaning look at what our behavior has cost us as Americans and in our health, the only thing we as practitioners have to offer is either another surgery because weight has destroyed our joints, or more medications because weight and inflammation has caused high blood pressure, it's caused diabetes, it's caused kidney failure, it's caused all kinds of things that started right home in our kitchen. And once we become educated on certain principles and the understanding about are we making our God our belly, then we become responsible. We become responsible for living life in a better way. And that's what Dr. Mark and I are trying to get across, is that we need to become responsible and accountable to our own lifestyles so that we can get outside of this nation of sickness and disease. When I was a resident, there were about 5 medications for type 2 diabetes. And as we alluded to early in this show, that our nation, we couldn't really see it in any of the states. But in 2030, it is predicted that all of the states will be about 60% obese. And you can look on the CDC website and find that for yourself. So those 5 medications have multiplied into 25 medications, and we still have not gotten control of the obesity crisis. So something is wrong. We've got to go back to the fundamentals, and we've got to change our lifestyle.
So we're going to teach you how to do that today. There's no question when you finish up watching our program that you'll know how to eat and how to live in such a way as to utilize fat for fuel and not store fat. So if you've ever wondered what that answer is and how to do that, we're going to unravel that for you, make it real clear for you wherever you are how to do that. We are not designed to store fat. Fat is a wonderful fuel. That's why God made it that every gram of fat is 9 calories of energy compared to every gram of protein and every gram of carbohydrate being 4 respectively. So stay with us. We're going to teach you how to eat in a way to utilize body fat as fuel. Welcome back. We are in the middle of a teaching segment on how to live and eat in a way to utilize fat as fuel as opposed to store it. Now there are a couple different types of fat, so you're going to unravel those for us right now.
Yes, we have a couple types of fat. One of those types of fat is brown fat. Brown fat is thermal fat, and the reason that it is thermal is that it is very high in mitochondria. Mitochondria make energy, they make heat, they make ATP. The mitochondria in brown fat is what gives it its color. As we get older, brown fat does have a tendency to disintegrate a little bit, and we become more yellow fat. That yellow fat is not necessarily 100% bad. We need yellow fat around our viscera, which is our intestinal organs, our precious organs. We need yellow fat for organ protection. We also need yellow fat for some of the sculpture of the face. If we get overly lean, where do we see it? We see it in our beautiful faces. We kind of lose that texture of our faces.
I have a question for you. Where else does it help sculpt the fat?
It can sculpt the hips, it can sculpt the midriff, it can become excessive in certain places, and we call that muffin tops, doolies, donuts. Well, that's a little bit excess fat. That's when yellow fat becomes inflammatory. So 2 types of fat, brown fat, yellow fat. All yellow fat is not bad, it's just when it starts to add up. And it starts to add up and become the majority of your body composition. So what we want to teach you to do is we want to teach you to go from that standard American yellow fat producing diet, the SAD diet, into what we call a semi-ketotic nutritional protocol. Ketosis is a metabolic state where the body burns fat as fuel, and for the most part it gets most of its energy from fat. And believe it or not, Fat adds about 300% more energy than carbohydrates. Remember, it's 9 calories per gram, whereas carbohydrates and protein are 4 calories per gram. So if you can teach yourself, your engine of metabolism, to get into that semi-ketotic state, you won't starve to death. You'll burn off that excess, you'll free yourself up, and you'll feel pretty darn good. So Dr. Mark, tell us how to get into that semi-ketotic lifestyle.
Okay, so I want you to get your pen and paper out right now and jot down a few notes. First of all, note number one is I want you to write down your ideal body weight. And I'm talking about an ideal compositional body weight. So if you are 200 pounds now and you're 5'5" and you're a lady about 45 years old, obviously your proportions are off. So you might write down something like 140. Okay, so I want you to take that number, whatever you wrote down, and I want it to be a realistic body weight. And I want you to multiply that number times about 10. Okay, when you multiply that number times 10, you're going to get 1,400. Okay, now for most men and most women who are trying to reduce body weight through this type of nutritional protocol, normally, if someone wants to speed up the process, for women, I'll go between 1,100 and 1,200 calories. For men, usually 1,400, 1,500, 1,600. Okay, so once you get the caloric load there, I want you to write this down too. From the carbohydrate section, I want you to keep your carbohydrates under 100 grams per day. Under 100 grams. And the 100 grams are only going to come from 2 pieces of fruit and multiple servings of green vegetables. Now I said green, I didn't say root vegetables like the brown white potato. I said green vegetables. Those come from salads or sauteed veggies. You're looking at kale, spinach, arugula, broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus. Anything of that nature would be okay. You would be okay within that 100 grams to have sweet potatoes, okay? But whatever it does, you're going to get 100 grams or less carbohydrates grams per day. Regarding protein, I want you to go about 80 grams of protein per day, okay? Same calculation. Remember, 1 gram is 4 calories. So you can see right now we've got a calculation based on grams of protein and grams of, obviously, carbohydrates. Now, you may have to elevate your protein grams a little bit based upon your activity level. If you're a heavyweight trainer, you may want to look for the area of about 1 gram per pound of lean body weight. If you're not, you're looking at about 80% of that. The rest of your caloric load of that, either going up to 1,100 or 1,200 or 1,400 to 1,600 if you're a man, are going to come from healthy fats, such as egg yolk, such as coconut oil, such as olive oil, such as avocados, such as nuts. If you will eat in this manner, over the course of time, you will begin to access body fat, and you'll train your body to do what it's supposed to do, which is utilize fat for fuel rather than store it. But the key is in that carbohydrate section, less than 100 grams every day. If you get down to 75 or 80, you'll do even better.
Yes. The metabolic sweet spot, that fat burning zone, is usually between 50 and 150 grams of carbohydrate a day. And that's, of course, coming from a low glycemic index carbohydrate load. Now, the other thing is when you get off that vicious cookie cycle, meaning putting sugar in too much, too long, too strong, all the time, your body starts to naturally adapt in burning fat as fuel. And how does that happen? We start to put insulin asleep. Insulin is that fat storing hormone. So when we're eating too many carbohydrates all the time, we're putting our system in a state of insulin resistance. It means that it really cannot utilize that sugar. So it's going to store it as fat. So as we take the carbohydrate load down, we start to shift the body into a fat-burning metabolism, it actually has access to its own fuel. And you will not starve to death, and you will not have any cravings, because we've done it gently, we've done it easily, and we've put insulin to sleep. So it's when insulin soars out of control and blood sugars are unstable that we have those cravings that want to drive us to the refrigerator and crack out that chocolate milk or that sweet treat to put us back on that vicious cookie cycle.
Got to get off that cookie cycle. Hopefully this made sense to you regarding what we're trying to do to teach you how to eat and live this way. When you eat and live this way, you're going to live a way that God intended. He intended for you not to be guided and directed by your drive, insatiable drive to accumulate as much carbohydrate mass and you can put in your mouth as possible. If you begin to live like this, you will begin to reduce body fat from your frame, and your body composition will begin to normalize. And when your body composition begins to normalize, you will get sick a whole lot less. And that's the design, friends. We want to teach you how to be well. To be well. If you want a great tool to help you with this process, Dr. Michelle mentioned the glycemic index. You want to go to our website, and the one listed for you will be Live4E. It's right down there. And you'll see that website listed, and I want you to get on there and download your free glycemic index food chart that'll help you with your carbohydrate selections. Obviously, you can have green vegetables all the time. Those are not listed. Those are all okay. But for the rest of those, you can download that card and get that thing. It'll help you make your selections. Keep those selections under 44. More or less on those on the number. You'll see that color-coded chart there, and you'll be just fine with the carbohydrate section. And before you know it, they'll be in a fat-burning mode.
And you'll get rid of that excess inflammatory yellow fat. And once you get to your goal, then we can start to change the ratio of proteins, carbohydrates to fat that Dr. Mark was talking about in the very beginning. But in order to get to your goal, we definitely want to get into the semi-ketotic state and burn that fat off the frame. So we're offloading inflammation. We're offloading all of that weight that is bogging down our joints. We are offloading all of that excessive sugar that is causing insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and then lending diabetes.
Want you to connect with us, friends. We're going to help you with this process. Connect with us on Facebook, on our newsletter. Get on there and do that. Get our book. Pray for us. Keep us in your prayers for sure. If God leads you to give to this ministry, we are a 501c3. For now, we got to go. I'm getting the cue to wrap it up back there. So for now, I'm Dr. Mark.
And I'm Dr. Michelle.
And we're still M&M without the sugar. We'll see you next time.